You usually think about the architecture of power carrying this built-in expectation of gravity.
Right, like a physical weight to it.
Exactly, like entering a cathedral or a Supreme Court chamber. You
Yeah.
walk through those heavy doors, and the physical space itself just kind of dictates a sobering seriousness.
Yeah, you instantly lower your voice.
You do. You understand immediately, just by the way the room feels, that the things happening inside it actually matter. But what happens when that gravity vanishes overnight?
That is the big question.
Right. So today, we are doing a deep dive into a really striking new piece of writing published today, June 11th, 2026. It's by Eric Reinhardt, and it's titled The Situation Room as a Shield for Secrets.
And it is a highly, highly controversial argument.
Very much so. We're going to map out how Reinhardt connects two seemingly entirely unrelated events. On one side, a highly publicized sex trafficking scandal involving the president, and on the other, a major international bombing campaign launched a year later.
It's quite the rhetorical bridge he builds.
It really is. And, before we jump in, Reinhardt's text deals with some incredibly explosive, politically charged allegations involving Donald Trump, his administration, and recent military actions. We need to be crystal clear right up front.
Absolutely. This is crucial for you, the listener, to understand before we go any further.
Yes. Our job today is not to validate his politics. We aren't weighing in on the veracity of these allegations, and we are absolutely not taking a side.
Right. We're not endorsing any of this.
Not at all. Our mission is strictly to serve as your impartial guides. We just want to map out the mechanics of Reinhardt's argument and show you exactly how he builds this specific case.
Well, the central thesis of the article kind of revolves around this concept that we can call the forfeiture of credibility.
Okay, break that down for us.
So the author builds this framework arguing that when a president utilizes the nation's most highly classified secure spaces to manage personal damage control, they fundamentally bankrupt the moral and strategic credibility that they need to lead the country into war later on.
So it's about the degradation of a tool.
Exactly. Reinhardt forces the reader to look at a very specific timeline, starting a year prior to the current conflict, to show how the administration completely altered the underlying purpose of the Situation Room.
Right, and the foundational event he points to happened in July 2025.
Yes.
According to the text, the president's top advisors went into the Situation Room to discuss Jeffrey Epstein and specifically the newly released files that mentioned Donald Trump.
Which is a huge detail. Because the Situation Room, just for context, it's SCIF.
The Sensitive Compartmented Information Facility.
Exactly. It's essentially an electromagnetic vault. It's designed to keep the nation's deepest existential secrets from leaking out.
Right, and they didn't go in there for a terror alert.
No.
They didn't go in for a nuclear standoff. Reading the author's intense outrage over this, a very distinct image came to my mind.
Oh, yeah. What was it?
It's like taking the emergency crash cart in a hospital ICU. Right. This meticulously maintained, highly sterilized piece of equipment that is only ever touched when a human heart literally stops beating.
Right. Life or death.
Exactly. And deciding to use it as a private beverage cooler for the hospital administrators.
That perfectly captures the tone of the piece.
It's not just like an administrative rule violation. It is a fundamental disrespect for the life or death purpose the tool was engineered for.
Yeah, and that crash cart analogy maps perfectly onto the rhetorical strategy Reinhardt actually deploys in the text.
Yeah.
He actively contrasts the historical weight of the physical room with its alleged modern misuse.
He brings up some heavy historical moments.
He really does. He writes that this space was built for 9/11s and Cuban Missile Crises. He invokes the most terrifying existential moments in modern American history to establish an uncompromising baseline.
Setting the stakes.
Exactly. That room is where reality cannot be ignored or spun. And then he delivers what I think is his sharpest critique, claiming the administration turned the sacred space into a crisis comms bunker for one man's reputation.
A crisis comms bunker. Reducing the entire concept of national defense to a public relations strategy.
Yeah, it's scathing.
He also uses the phrase self-preservation with better lighting, which I found fascinating because it completely dismantles the automatic assumption we all have, right? That just because a president is doing something behind closed doors, it must be a matter of state security.
Right. We just assume they're protecting us.
But the text goes much deeper than just complaining about the misuse of federal real estate. There's a profound psychological argument happening here about the nature of leadership.
Yeah, and bringing a deeply personal, reputational scandal into a secure room is, as Reinhardt frames it, it's like admitting something out loud without saying a single word.
Like a physical demonstration of priorities.
Exactly. The author argues that dragging a sex trafficking scandal into the Situation Room shows that the machinery of the state is no longer facing outward.
Outward to protect the citizenry from foreign threats, you mean?
Right. He says it has been inverted. It is now facing inward to protect the leader from domestic accountability.
So you are silently admitting that your political survival requires the exact same level of lockdown as a terrorist threat.
Which is a chilling thought.
It is. But that crash cart analogy we talked about,
All right.
it only gets truly terrifying when the hospital actually catches fire.
Right. Which brings us to the next year.
Exactly. That's
Yes.
exactly what Reinhardt argues happened. The article makes this massive structural pivot here, moving from analyzing that 2025 sit room scandal to analyzing the 2026 military campaign in Iran.
He connects them directly.
Yeah, he doesn't bring up the Situation Room just to rehash old news. He uses it to construct a direct causal argument against the administration's military actions that are occurring right now.
Right. So the text outlines the second factual pillar of his argument, which is the president's launch of what was sold as an urgent, unprovoked bombing campaign against Iran.
Unprovoked being the key word there.
Yes. And Reinhardt is incredibly specific about the lack of justification presented to the public. He states unequivocally that there was no credible imminent threat to the homeland.
No honest case that American cities were about to be targeted.
Exactly.
I have to push back on the core logic of the text right here, though, just to stress test the argument for a second.
Sure, go ahead.
Administrations throughout history always use closed-door meetings. It's just the inherent nature of the executive branch. And presidents always claim to have classified intelligence that the public doesn't have access to when they launch military strikes.
That is a historical norm, you're right.
So why does Reinhardt argue that this specific SCIF meeting about a personal PR crisis
Yeah.
totally negates the justification for a completely separate, entirely unrelated military action in Iran? I mean, why does he claim one completely cancels out the other?
Well, that tension you're pointing out, that is the engine driving the entire article.
Okay.
The answer lies in the mechanics of what he calls a credibility deficit.
A credibility deficit.
Right. The text argues that the power of state secrecy isn't just about, thick JOs and classification stamps. It relies entirely on a fragile social contract of trust between the leader and the public.
Ah, I see where he's going.
Reinhardt asserts that you cannot use the apparatus of secrecy as a hiding place for your personal scandals and then turn around the next year and demand that the public blindly trust that exact same secrecy as a shield for the republic.
So the public's benefit of the doubt functions almost like a consumable resource.
Yeah.
Like a battery.
Yes. A battery is a great way to look at it.
If a president uses the SCIF to manage personal PR, he completely drains that battery. So when he actually needs that battery to power public support for a massive war effort, it's completely dead.
Exactly.
It reminds me of the boy who cried wolf, but with a slight twist.
How so?
It's as if the boy used the town's emergency siren just to drown out the noise of his neighbors complaining about him. Like, he abused the emergency system purely for his personal convenience.
Oh, that's good.
So when the actual wolf shows up, or at least when he claims the wolf has shown up, and he pulls that siren again, not a single person in the village believes the alert is real.
Yeah, Reinhardt's text actually uses a very similar logical progression. He writes, if your team treats secrecy as a hiding place, you cannot ask us to believe that secrecy is suddenly a shield.
Wow.
The administration has demonstrated a willingness to conflate their personal survival with national survival. Therefore, when they claim there is an urgent threat from Iran requiring an unprovoked bombing campaign, the public has absolutely no way to verify it.
Because they can't know if the threat is to the nation's borders or just to the president's poll numbers.
Exactly. The well has been completely poisoned.
He also highlights a very specific manipulative script that leaders use in these moments to sell conflict.
The familiar cadence, yeah.
Right, the text points it out. They're dangerous, we're in peril, trust me, I'll keep you safe.
It is a calculated formula, and Reinhardt argues that this formula relies entirely on the structural integrity of the trust me component.
And if you've drained the battery.
Right. If you needed your top aides in a SCI to manage the fallout of your name appearing in a convicted predator's files, the trust me component is structurally compromised.
It falls apart.
The text states that a leader in that position doesn't get to, quote, Wrap yourself in the flag and pretend you're the only thing standing between us and destruction.
Man. So having established this mechanism, connecting the misuse of physical spaces to a total collapse of justification for war, the text kind of shifts gears again here.
It does. It moves into a broader, almost philosophical exploration of what national security leadership actually requires.
And Reinhardt brings his own biography into the text to anchor this argument, doesn't he?
He does, and it's important. He explicitly notes that he has, quote, sat in real crisis rooms.
Which is a vital rhetorical move.
Yeah.
He isn't just a pundit offering abstract commentary from the sidelines.
No, he is bringing an insider's tactile expectation to the table. He knows the atmospheric pressure of those environments. He expects life and death decisions to be treated as sacred, not theatrical. He argues that those secure rooms are engineered to be places where leaders confront objective reality, not places where they escape from it.
Which leads directly into his really powerful definitions of what leadership is not.
Yes, he zeroes in with incredible precision. He states that leadership isn't about finding the thickest door you can close behind you and slapping a national security label on the outside.
Essentially weaponizing the concept of national defense to avoid answering difficult questions.
Exactly.
And then he drops what might be the most devastating sentence in the entire piece.
I think I know which one you mean.
He says leadership isn't about turning national defense into a witness protection program for your own past.
Yeah, that's the one.
A witness protection program for your own past.
Yeah.
That implies a staggering level of cowardice. The implication is that the vast, powerful machinery of the United States intelligence apparatus is being shrunk down and repurposed to serve as a personal bodyguard for a leader's historical embarrassments.
The author is really suggesting a fundamental perversion of state power. But, if we follow his logic, it raises a difficult counter-question.
What's that?
If hiding behind a vault door is cowardice, Reinhardt seems to be demanding absolute transparency. But in the realm of national security, complete transparency is obviously impossible.
Of course. You can't broadcast troop movements or intelligence sources.
Right. So, according to his framework, where is the line between necessary operational secrecy and cowardly reputational secrecy?
That is the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And the text seems to draw that line based on the direction of the threat.
Okay, expand on that.
Well, necessary secrecy faces outward hiding our capabilities from foreign adversaries to protect citizens. But cowardly secrecy faces inward hiding a leader's actions from the citizens to protect the leader's power.
Oh, that makes sense.
It completely changes how you, the listener, should watch the evening news. Reinhardt is essentially handing you a new filter for your ears.
A filter for how we process declarations of war.
Right. The next time a politician stands at a podium declaring a national emergency, demanding military action, you have to run their words through this filter. You have to ask yourself, do the objective facts on the ground demand military force, or do the leader's personal hidden fears demand a distraction?
And he explicitly warns against leaders who shout emergency every time accountability knocks. It is a well-documented distraction tactic.
Yeah.
So after dismantling the administration's actions, Reinhardt lays out his affirmative case for leadership. He calls it simple, yet incredibly hard.
What does he say?
He writes, own the truth, stand in the light, use force only when facts demand it, not when your fears do.
Stand in the light. That is the direct physical opposite of hiding behind a 2-foot-thick steel door in a SCIF.
Exactly. True strength requires transparency, especially regarding one's own flaw.
But what the public is seeing instead, according to the text, is cowardice dressed up as strength.
Yeah. He distills his entire thesis into one final, uncompromising conclusion. He says, if a man needs the full weight of American secrecy to manage a sex scandal, he should never have the full weight of American firepower in his hands.
Wow.
The argument is that the geopolitical landscape is just far too volatile to allow personal cowardice to pilot the military apparatus.
He leaves the reader forced to really reevaluate where danger actually originates.
Yeah.
He suggests that sometimes the clearest national security threat isn't a foreign adversary plotting outside the building. It's the man whose staff walks into the Situation Room acting like it's their private clubhouse.
The internal threat.
Right. The threat is the internal degradation of the very institutions meant to protect the country from external threats. The privatization of public defense.
It forces us to recognize that the decay of institutional integrity isn't just some abstract political problem, It translates directly into a tangible, kinetic danger when that same leadership attempts to project force on the global stage.
Let's review the intellectual journey we've taken through this source material today. Eric Reinhardt's article constructs a stark, uncompromising bridge between two events.
Right.
He begins with the specific allegation regarding the misuse of the Situation Room to manage an Epstein-related PR crisis involving Donald Trump in July 2025. He establishes that act as a profound breach of institutional purpose.
The draining of the battery.
Exactly. And from that breach, he draws a direct, causal line to the lack of moral and strategic credibility for an unprovoked war with Iran in 2026. He argues, through the mechanics of the credibility deficit, that a leader cannot poison the well of state secrecy with personal scandal and then expect the public to drink from it when declaring a national emergency.
The domestic credibility deficit mutates into an international security liability.
Beautifully put. Now, as we close out this session, we want to remind you, our listener, one final time. Our goal today was solely to map out the rhetorical strategies and underlying logic of this specific, highly charged text.
Yes. We are not endorsing the political views. We aren't verifying the allegations or validating the conclusions within it.
Exactly. We are simply unpacking how Eric Reinhardt engineered his argument.
And, building on the architecture of his argument, if we take Reinhardt's core premise seriously, that the physical, highly classified spaces of national security can be successfully co-opted as props for a leader's personal brand management, it leaves us with a fascinating and honestly deeply troubling puzzle for the future.
Yeah, think about the historical record. 50 or 100 years from now, researchers, scholars, and historians are going to petition to unseal the archives of this specific era.
Right, they'll want to see what really happened.
They're going to open cardboard boxes filled with documents stamped top secret. But if the apparatus of secrecy has been fundamentally compromised in the way this text alleges, how will those future historians ever be able to reliably untangle the truth?
They wouldn't know what's real and what's PR.
Exactly. How will they know which classified documents were genuinely matters of state survival, containing intelligence that protected the lives of millions, and which documents were just elaborate political theater, carefully hidden away behind the thickest doors of the state simply to protect one man's reputation?
It blurs the line of history.
When the stamp of national security is used to classify embarrassment instead of protecting the nation, the entire history of an era becomes an unsolvable mystery.
That is a heavy, lingering thought to carry with you today as you look at the news.
It really is. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.